Awesome. I'm here with Victoria Demby for a STEM interview. Hello, Victoria Demby.
Hi, Annie. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Perfect. All right. So, could you give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Sure. So, my name is Vicky Demby. I live in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for over 25 years. I am married and have two boys, and I currently work at a very small company with only 33 people called Adlai Nortye in New Jersey, and I work on oncology drugs. But all of my previous experience has been in larger pharmaceuticals.
Awesome. So, I'm going to ask you a bit about your early life. When did you first get interested in STEM?
I think seventh grade is when I became interested because we had to dissect a frog, and everyone in my class was really grossed out, but I thought it was really cool. So I dissected, two or three frogs because I did it for my friends too. And I knew that I wanted to get into some type of science back then.
Now, a bit further on, what schooling have you done to get to the position you're at?
So I went to a very large high school, Council Rock High School, when it was a single high school, and I graduated with over 1,000 people. And I took a couple advanced science classes when I was there. And then I went to University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont, and I got my bachelor's of science in biochemistry many years ago. Then I worked for 3.5 years before I went to graduate school. So I worked at a company called YF Ayers Research, which is no longer around. They were bought by Pfizer. But I was working in a lab in drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I decided to go back to graduate school. So I went to University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas, and I studied pharmacology and toxicology, where I received my Ph.D. And then I graduated from Kansas and I went to DuPont Pharmaceuticals in Delaware. And I was only there for 4 months, and Bristol Myers Squibb bought us, and I got laid off. So then I went to a very small contract lab called Quest Pharmaceutical Services, and I was there for 1 year. And then I got married and I moved to North Carolina, where I worked for GlaxoSmithKline, and I ran an in vitro transporter lab for about 6 years. And when I was there, I got interested in regulatory affairs, which is how you get drugs approved for sale to help people with treatments. And so I didn't have any kind of background. So I decided to move. I had two children when I was down in North Carolina, and I wanted to be closer to my family in the Pennsylvania area. So I moved back and I started working at Bristol Myers Squibb in Princeton, New Jersey. And then I was part of a writing group. So I was writing all of the preclinical documents for regulatory filings. I moved into a regulatory affairs role there, and I got several drugs approved. I then moved to Merck. I was at Merck for 7.5 years, and I worked on a cancer drug called Keytruda, which is an extremely popular drug that helps treat a lot of people with a lot of different cancers. It's a $12 billion a year drug. So it's a very popular drug that works very well. And then I went to GlaxoSmithKline again, but in Pennsylvania, and I worked in oncology. And then just about a little over a year ago, I moved to Adlai Nortye, which is up by Rutgers in North Brunswick, New Jersey. And I started the entire regulatory group, and I'm the senior vice president in charge of all of regulatory for the company. So it's been interesting. And each time that I go somewhere, I learn new things and learn what I do and don't want to do.
Yeah, it seems like you have been around a lot.
I moved quite a bit. Some of it, some of it was because I wanted to be closer to family when I moved back up here, but some of it was there wasn't opportunity at whatever role I was at, and I wanted to move into a different role. So that's why I moved.
Yeah, makes sense. Want to always advance your career.
Yep.
All right. So my next question is, have you had any mentors during each step of your career, and what have they done for you?
I always have mentors. Mentors are a wonderful thing. So I always, no matter where I was at, I always look for someone who was in a more senior position than I or had experiences that was different than myself. And I would ask to meet with them once a quarter, if not more. And I would talk to them, especially like I said, I was in the lab in drug metabolism and I was trying to get into regulatory affairs. So I spoke with the head of regulatory and said, you know, how do I get into regulatory affairs? And he helped me along the way figure things out. And then when I was at Merck, the head of all of regulatory, her name's Sandy Milligan. She is absolutely amazing. She is the head, not only of regulatory, but the head of the entire company called Organon now. And I remember she gave a talk once and she said that her career was like chutes and ladders. And she said, sometimes you go up and other times you have to go down to go back up. And she said, no one really has a straight path. And everywhere you go, you have to take learnings from it. And then you eventually get to where you go. And I've always remembered that. So I've kept in touch with her. But I think I love mentoring people now. I have quite a few people that want to talk to me. I also teach intro to regulatory affairs course at George Washington University. And a lot of those students, it's for a master's degree. And a lot of those students want to talk to me about how to transition from the lab into regulatory. So mentors are extremely important, and especially female mentors. I tend to really like to talk to female people who have a similar perspective and challenges and successes like I do.
Absolutely. It's great to be able to hear from other people and learn from them.
Yeah.
Another question is, so since you've had so many jobs, but why did you choose your current position?
I chose my current position because when I was at my job at GlaxoSmithKline, my boss had left and they put me in an interim vice president role. So for almost a year, I was running the whole department of about 67, 70 people, and I really enjoyed it. And then that role was not offered to me at the end, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I decided that I wanted to look around, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go to a small pharmaceutical because there's a lot of risks, and my whole 25-year career has been in large pharma. But this company had the CEO and the head of clinical have a ton of large pharma experience. And it helps the drug that they have is going to help treat patients who have head and neck cancer, which is a very unmet medical need. So I really like that I would be able to help people. And then I also like the fact that they didn't have any regulatory department. So I was hired specifically to start the department at the company. And I thought that would be a really great challenge for me. And I've been there a little over a year and I really love it.
That's awesome. So, what would be a typical day at work like for you personally?
So I start early and sometimes I work late because my company actually has roots in China. So, because of the time difference, you know, there's a 12-hour time difference. So, a lot of times I will start at 7 or 8 in the morning, like I did this morning. And I have a couple direct reports that sit in China. So, I will usually speak to them about any issues they have or the work that they're doing. And then I will have a meeting with my clinical folks. I'm in a lot of matrix team meetings where there's a lot of different functional areas, clinical, safety, uh, regulatory, myself, statistics. And I will talk to them. We're getting ready to file a new drug application for the head and neck cancer treatment. So right now I'm trying to prepare the team to do the necessary regulatory activities to get that approved through the FDA. So I have a lot of meetings right now in preparation for FDA meetings, in preparation for what do we want the dossier or the documents to look like. So I have a lot of meetings just in terms of preparation because when the data are ready to come off and we're ready to see the data at the end of the year, we want to be able to file the application with the FDA. And then at night, I usually come home, I'll be able to eat dinner, spend a little bit of time with my family, and then I have meetings at 8 and 9 at night PM sometimes. So that's the thing about regulatory. It's not a 9 to 5 job. Sometimes it's very busy and I have a lot of meetings. And then other times it's not very busy and I can just do work during the day.
That's very fascinating how it's not you go into work and then you come back home. It's kind of on the clock 24/7, figuring out when you need to do stuff.
It really is. And I mean, even with FDA, sometimes they ask us questions, which are called information requests. And one time they asked me a question the day before Christmas, and it was due December 29th. So the whole team had to work over Christmas, which, wasn't the best, but you have to do what you have to do to get the drug approved. And the end goal is always to help people in need. And that's what we always have to think about. But I like that aspect that it's not it's not the same thing every day.
How has the pandemic impact your career?
It's been a really big impact. I think there's been both positive and negative. I don't even remember what it is like to go into the office 5 days a week anymore, Annie, and I don't know if I could do it anymore. So at my current job, I only am required to go into the office every Tuesday. There's 33 of us, and we have a team meeting from 9 to 11. But a plus is I don't, I don't have to go into the office, so I can work at home. I can, I don't have to get dressed up. I don't have to sit in the traffic. I've become things like we're doing right now. Zoom is a lot more popular, or the Teams, and you have to do things and you learn how to work remotely and you learn how to do better communication because you have to. I think it was really fascinating in 2020 when all of this happened because I'm so close to regulatory and so close to the FDA. They really didn't know what to do because a lot of drugs and products are sourced from China and India. And when the world shut down, a lot of these drugs couldn't be distributed to people who needed them. And then also people couldn't get to clinical trial sites that they needed to get to be a part of the trial. So trying to figure out, how to get the patients their drugs, how to document things from a regulatory perspective. And then I attended a ton of meetings with FDA because FDA was trying to figure things out at the same time we were. They didn't know what to do. This never happened before. So I think it's been a learning experience on, how to work together, how to solve things, how to document things, because you really have to understand why certain things were done. And then another plus that I found out from all of this is from a patient standpoint, there's people in a lot of poverty areas that normally wouldn't be able to afford to attend a clinical trial at a site that might be a couple hours away. And now, because of the pandemic, they've started doing clinical trials remotely where they'll actually send the drug to the person's house and you can do all of these things over Zoom. So I think that's been a major plus for the pharmaceutical industry as well, is that we're allowing underprivileged populations who normally wouldn't be able to be part of a clinical trial can now do so.
I never knew there was that aspect that came out of the pandemic. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So currently, and maybe in the past few years, have you had to travel for your work at all?
So I do, not so much anymore because everything is virtual right now with FDA, but FDA is located in DC. And so whenever I needed to have a meeting with them, so we have meetings to discuss the data. We have meetings to show them what we plan to file, and they'll tell us their opinion on it. So I used to have to go to FDA quite often, and I would just take the train down, and it would just be a single day trip. I also sometimes flew over to Europe because I am a global regulatory person. So I'm not only dealing with FDA, I'm dealing with global regulatory agencies around the world. I was supposed to go to Japan in June of 2020 to talk to the PMDA, which is the equivalent of the FDA in the US, but it's the regulatory body in Japan. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I was not allowed to go to Japan. But my typical travel would be really to the regulatory agencies. I also attend meetings usually once a year. So the big meeting that I attend is called ASCO, which is an oncology society meeting, and that is in Chicago every year. And they share all the companies and all the physicians that go, they will share data on oncology drugs. And so I will usually go there just to learn the latest of the assays that are being done and, whatever's out in the drug world. So otherwise, I don't really travel much, especially now with the way things are. But that is a plus and a negative. I mean, I'm a people person, and I do miss seeing people in person and being able to travel. But the FDA hasn't really opened back up for in-person meetings, so everything is done via Zoom.
And now just it's sitting in front of a computer. You can sometimes lose the face-to-face contact.
Yeah.
All right. So another question more about your current life is, do you have any career aspirations for the future?
So my company is very, very small, and it's called pre-IPO, which means that it's not actually traded on the stock market yet. So I'm hoping that our company can actually go IPO and get on the stock market. And then we have a big readout of a phase 3 trial, which is a very large, statistically powered trial for the head and neck cancer. And I'm hoping that those data look good later on this year, and I will be able to file for the company. It's been so challenging and rewarding that I started the department from scratch. And I think if I could get the drug approved to help patients and also bring the company along to be a profitable company, it would be really rewarding to me. I really, really enjoy teaching as well. So I teach on the side. Like I said, I teach Intro to Regulatory Affairs at George Washington. So I think maybe I need to probably work another 10 years, and then I'd like to either retire and teach, do something. I really enjoy the teaching aspect of things, and I enjoy being around the younger people. And I love to mentor, and especially young scientists. And I really enjoy that part of life.
Yeah, being able to pass down the knowledge is it's very special.
Yeah.
In the same line of passing down knowledge, if you could give some advice to your younger self, what would you give yourself?
I give this advice to people, and I would definitely give it to my younger self, is put everything that I have in, put your all into your work, and, have a wonderful work ethic, but work-life balance is extremely important. When I was trying to come up in my career, especially when I was working at Merck on the drug that was helping so many, I was working, 60 to 80 hours a week. And I sort of regret that, Annie. I wish that I would have, taken the time to spend with my family and my boys when they were younger, and, my husband, and sort of smelled the flowers a little bit more and also worked hard. I feel like I had a little bit of an imbalance at that time, and I've since corrected it. And I enjoy my life a lot better. I enjoy my work life, and I'm happy and fully engaged, but I'm also really enjoying my husband and spending time with my kids. And I wish I could still see my friends a little bit more because it is a little busy. But if I was younger, I would tell myself, just have a nice work-life balance. You can work hard and be successful, but still put some time into yourself and your loved ones. Another key thing, because, I came from the lab into regulatory, and it was very difficult back then. I got rejected a lot of times. And another thing that I've learned is to never give up. If you have a goal, that it's just like Sandy Milligan told me, the chutes and ladders. Sometimes you might have to go sideways or even take a step down to get where you need to go, but you don't give up, and you keep you keep going forward. And I can't believe 25 years ago, I would have never thought I would be a senior VP of regulatory affairs, and teaching. And I'm just, those are the two things I think, is just never give up, and then take the time for yourself as well as your career.
Wow, thank you so much. Very insightful, especially for someone who looks up to people in STEM.
Yes, STEM is wonderful.
Yeah. Alrighty. So thank you so much for joining me for this interview, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks,